NIL Now with Lauren Sisler and Kevin Jones.
If you want to learn more about name, image, and likeness, you need to go to The Source. The NIL Now podcast from Headline Studio and Reddit highlights the biggest storylines with comments from key guests in the college and high school NIL space.
NIL is not a cherry on top. It needs to be thought about as a part of these young men and women's future to, further their careers. You should be able to leave college with something.
Subscribe to NIL Now on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Every year, thousands of human remains are found in the United States. And in one of every 4 instances, authorities can't identify the body. That's starting to change. I'm Dave Killen, co-host of The Unidentifieds, a new limited series podcast from The Oregonian and Oregon Live. We go deep into several cold cases and explain the science that's helping experts give these long-forgotten people their names back. Look for The Unidentifieds after you've finished listening to this podcast. Subscribe to The Unidentifieds on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Sports by Northwest podcast, supported by the Pacific Automation 147, coming June 2nd and 3rd to Portland International Raceway. I am Bill Oram, columnist at the Oregonian and Oregon Live. My guest this week is a very special individual. His name is Allan Benavides. He is the general manager of the Eugene Emeralds, the high A affiliate of the San Francisco Giants. Maybe not a familiar name unless you are a super fan of the Eugene Emeralds, but I assure you, you are familiar with his work because he is the general manager of the Eugene Emeralds, the high A affiliate of the San Francisco Giants.
Yes, sir.
And famously, I mean, we're going to get into this, but Allan, I think the people probably most likely know you for getting a prostate exam during the 7th inning stretch of an Emeralds game last year.
Yeah, that kind of went a little viral. I didn't expect that. That was pretty funny.
Is that your biggest claim to fame, or are there any other contenders?
There's a few others. I mean, we've done some really stupid stuff over the years. And that was just one that we worked with our partners with at Oregon Urology. And it was funny because the way that came along was we were talking about like, hey, we can do science, we can do this promotion, Father's Day. And I'm like, and I'll take a prostate exam live and sing the 7th inning stretch. I had a friend who did that, with another team, and that kind of went by. And then like the day before, my assistant GM who was handling the counts, like, hey, don't forget you got a prostate exam in the 7th inning. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, you said you would do it. I was like, oh, okay, all right, let's do this. So.
I wasn't planning on diving all the way into this now, but since we're here, was there a moment you regretted that decision? Like, was it in the middle of the Cracker Jack line, or was there?
Not at all. No, the funny thing was I was gonna try to make it funny, and then I'm just a really bad singer, and so there's a note that I just kind of like squeal a little bit, and that was not on purpose. But yeah, it was funny. Yeah.
So, Allan, the impetus for having you on the show this week is something cool you guys are doing this weekend. I've written about it in the Oregonian. It's near and dear to my heart as a kid from the Oregon coast, not in Florence, but a coastie, as we like to say. And you guys are paying homage to the great exploding whale of 1970. 1970. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Iconic Oregon coast moment down in Florence. It's been immortalized with Exploding Whale Beach. And of course, if you are not familiar, talk about things going viral, the great newscast featuring Paul Lindman right there as he got covered in blubber and a car got crushed. So tell us what you guys are doing this weekend.
Yeah, so Paul's going to come to the game, throwing out first pitch. He's going to have his book out. We got folks from New York, from Major League Baseball, coming to the game to kind of witness what's going on. We got bunch of folks from Florence coming out, not only this game, but for all the Exploding Whale games. We've got some great graphics. The guys are wearing their jerseys. We've got a bunch of new merch in, which we can't seem to keep that merchandise in stock. So, but it's going to be a lot of fun clips and sound effects. So, Bill, we didn't expect it to go as viral as it did at all, or like even the merch, like we sold out in minutes. So it was crazy.
And we're blubbering about it on the Sports by Northwest podcast.
Well, what's funny, man, is, we announced this thing and people out of the woodwork started coming out, to be honest, we were really nervous to do it. We were like, A, do people know about it? we knew it was a really popular video on YouTube, but then we were kind of like, well, are people going to think we're being insensitive? Are environmentalists going to get upset with us? There was also concern from the tribes locally because whales and marine mammals have a big significance in native culture. And so we spoke to some of our local tribes. We spoke to the folks in Florence. And, we worked with the Mammal Institute at Oregon State, and we're going to donate money back to them from the jerseys that we sell, the player jerseys at the end of the season, and donate the money back to the Mammal Institute at Oregon State, where they're doing research on whales and beachings and climate change and that sort of thing. So trying to have a good, educational component to it too, but also having fun, right? It happened. Folks didn't want to talk about it. We had a hard time getting people to talk about it, to be honest, at first. And then it went viral, and then people just started calling us that were involved with it. Like that car you mentioned, that car was a Eugene family. They owned a business in town, and they owned this like old shooting gallery. And the gentleman who bought that car, the family, they're coming to the game. I don't think he's around anymore, but the family, they're coming out to the game, and he had bought the car at a dealership down south, and the advertisement, this is no joke, the advertisement for the car said, you're getting a whale of a deal for, whatever sale they were having, right? So, yeah, it's just been, we've had ODOT reach out, and they're buying, they didn't really like talking about it, but now that, they've bought merchandise, and it's crazy. It's been a lot of fun.
Allan, according to your LinkedIn page,
Yeah.
you attended the University of California at Santa Cruz. Is that correct?
The Fighting Banana Slugs.
And I have to ask, first of all, in a celebrity death match of banana slugs and exploding whales, who wins?
Oh, exploding whale.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead. No.
Does being a banana slug at all inform your love of? It feels like it dovetails nicely with working in minor league baseball and now having, this alternate identity. We should say that you guys. How many times are you guys doing this season? As the
I think we're
whales?
doing it. We've expanded it. We're going to do it 7 times.
Okay.
But Santa Cruz is funny. You mentioned Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz is a weird little beach town as well, and it's dear to me. But Eugene reminds me a lot of Santa Cruz. But yeah, it's the quirkiness of Santa Cruz is very evident here in Eugene as well. So enjoy doing some fun promotions like this, and we're doing other things. We're doing the pranksters. We're paying homage to the Merry Pranksters as well this season, and working with the pranksters that still around and having them out to games and whatnot. So
Ken Kesey's Merry Pranksters, of course.
Yeah.
What? It seems very fun, right? I know that running minor league baseball team has a lot of. Probably has a lot of paperwork and a lot of boring logistics. I'm looking at you right now. Our listeners can't see you, but you're in a white, cement walled room. It looks
the bunker, we call it.
But I feel like, you guys get to have fun in a way that a lot of, sports teams maybe don't get to. Minor league baseball kind of famous for it. The history of Bill Veeck.
Yeah.
What is your history with kind of the goofy side of minor league baseball?
This is what I love about minor league baseball, right? Minor league baseball is about entertainment, about coming out and having a good time. We play baseball, but it's not necessarily our focus, right? You get the diehards who want to see the prospects and whatnot, but we're doing all the goofy stuff on the field, right? And we're doing all these goofy promotions. And you don't really get to do that at the big leagues. You don't get to do that really in college sports, right? They rely on wins and losses. For us, it's like, hey, did you have a good time? Even though we got blown out 20-0, right? Like that's our mantra. But yeah, we've had some funny promotions in my almost 20-year career. One recently that we did that we got in a little bit of trouble for was on 420. We did a free pot giveaway, and that was just a flower pot that we gave away. And we're like, all right, we can't do that. Major League Baseball didn't like that, so we kind of tamed that down a little bit. We did one funny promotion we did years ago in Lake Elsinore was. We worked with my friend's company who we went to high school together, and she went on to make these weird products, and she made this one product called Subtle Butt, and it was basically a carbon patch that you would put in your underwear so when you had flatulence it wouldn't smell. And so we decided to do like these all you can eat barbecues, like where any fan could buy it. It's all, you get a wristband, you get all you can eat popcorn, hot dogs, and in order to promote it, we decided that we would give away these Subtle Butt patches. And people just thought it was a riot. They were giving away fart patches that people put in their underwear. It's a real product, for people with flatulence, but we were giving them out, and it was silly and funny.
Like some barbecue joints, you have the wet wipes for your fingers. This was your offering.
This was our offering, right? And so that got on all kinds of similar to the exploding whale. Like it got all over, in some national media and whatnot. But there have been some silly promotions that we've done. We were gonna do. There's some that have never made the cut, because we're like, probably can't do that one. But there's some fun ones that we wish we would have done, and some that I'm really happy that we didn't. So Mike Veck, who you referred, Bill Veck, obviously the legend, but Mike Veck, I've been to a couple things where he talks about just have fun, just get out there, just do the crazy things that teams won't do to stand out. And one of those nights was we did a nothing night where it was like the day after the 4th, which is like generally our biggest day of the year, and we decided to do nothing. We're like, all right, we're going to do nothing. And there was no music. There was no scoreboard. There was no PA. It was strictly baseball. And fans ended up taking over the promotions. Like they started making like little megaphones out of their programs and announcing who the batters were. People were like, it turned into this thing where people would bring their boom boxes and like boom boxes. Do they still say boom boxes? Yeah, they bring in their.
We can say boom boxes. They brought in their Beats pills.
They weren't Beats pills, but people are bringing in their own music to do walk-ups for players. That was a fun promotion. We did we've done. Can I just one promotion we did a Michael Jackson night, which was before he passed, and it was not. we had a white glove giveaway. We had the game started with
So I'm curious about the 420 night. So Major League Baseball said you can't make 420 jokes. You can't make pot jokes.
It wasn't so much that, but we were like, hey, we can't, really promote, and it was right. We couldn't really promote, pot, I guess. Yeah, and so we kind of stepped away from that, and we still give away the flower pot, but it was more of like a prankster night what we turned it into. So, it wasn't that they were like, you can't do this. They were just like, hey, maybe don't say this, don't say free pot, and we had announced it, and then so it got announced on social media, and then it just turned into like, okay, we're just gonna do prankster night. So
Hey guys, if you love college football, we think you'll like the College Football Survivor Show. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and my co-host Shahan Jeharaja and I, each week we talk about the best programs, best coaches, best players in the sport. It's all football, no off-field stuff, no legislation. It's about the teams that are going to matter most in the playoff race. Will Georgia three-peat? Always on the lookout for angry Bama. The Big Ten, Ohio State and Michigan battling at the top and Penn State on the rise. The Pac-12 matters again, not just USC, but Oregon and Washington as well. The playoff is expanding. Expand your podcast listening. Try the College Football Survivor Show wherever you find podcasts.
How have things changed for you guys, stepping away from promotions for a minute, but how have things changed for you guys since minor league baseball realigned and shrunk, right? We've seen a lot of past minor league teams that have gone away, entire leagues and, short A have no longer exist. The Pioneer League is independent now. How is the business of baseball different from you guys since the realignment a couple years ago?
It's particularly different for us. For those that don't know, we share a stadium with the University of Oregon at PK Park. So, historically for 47 years, we were a short season team. And then our league minus 2 teams got promoted to high A, which is great. Our players are older, they're better, they're faster, stronger, better baseball. The problem is, again, we share a park with the University of Oregon. And so there have been all these new facility guidelines that got to get in place and whatnot, right? And so our season that would have started mid-June now starts in early April. The Ducks play from February through the end of May, potentially mid-June with regionals and supers. So that's problematic. It's really problematic. PK Park only has 1 locker room and that sort of thing. So from a access, being able to practice and that sort of thing, it's just not great for us. And so we're having to try to save the team by building a new stadium to meet the new major league requirements, right, that are due by 2025. And we've done some great work with the county. We're working with the city and the state. We're putting in a bunch of money to try to build a new facility at the fairgrounds downtown. but it's not for sure, and we have a very short window. So that's made that change for us, that I spend most of my time trying to figure this out to save this team that's been here since
Yeah.
55. That's most of my work, trying to find a new home, and we've made great progress, but no announcement yet. But I think the changes from Major League Baseball, I think when we look at it 5-10 years from now, we'll look back at it and we'll be like, hey, those changes are really great, right? Better access for the players, better facilities. Um, Long term, I think it's the right play. The short term heartache is pretty hard, right? And not being able to meet those requirements is going to be devastating for this community and our team if we can't. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, 40 some odd teams got cut when the reduction happened from 160 to 120, and a lot of those communities are trying to figure out how they get minor league teams back into the communities. Some of them have gone independent, some of them just shuttered completely. So yeah, I think that it's been a huge change for us, brother.
I mean, I think, here in Portland, right, there was a headline a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, that the Hops
Yeah.
are building a new stadium. And I think that there was a general reaction of, hey, didn't they just get a new stadium when the team showed up 10 years ago? Why do they need a new $120 million facility? And,
Right.
talking to Cale Wambacher, who is is your peer with the Hops, it becomes pretty clear pretty quickly that, the facility they have, similar to the experience you guys have with PK
Yeah.
Park, just doesn't meet major league requirements. And they would have the flexibility to try to conform to major league requirements in terms of like adding on to the existing Tonkin field, but it would be difficult. And you guys, as tenants of PK Park, don't have the luxury of
Right.
adding on. So
Right.
it is an interesting kind of crossroads for these teams that existed as short season A, where you're only playing so many games. It's okay if the facilities are not major league level. And one thing I learned from KL, and I think that you could echo, is how they want to standardize the quality of facilities throughout minor league baseball. The days of idea of Bull Durham and leaky faucets and cold showers and carrying your own bags or whatever it is. I mean, however we romanticize minor league baseball, especially low level minor league baseball, those days, thanks to this change in the structure of baseball, those days are effectively over.
Those days are gone. I mean, as you see players and when the draft happens, and shoot, you got players from Oregon, right, getting drafted, right, and facilities that they have at the athletic building and the Mashofsky and the Mariota Center, and then they get to go to some facility that's 50 years old that hasn't been renovated in 20 years, doesn't have the square footage and lockers, doesn't have the gym space that's being required. I think COVID changed a lot of things too immediately that are like in all of our lives, right? Gym space. Like we don't have a gym here, and they don't want the players going out to gyms, right? And so we have family waiting areas, secure parking, female, like in Hillsborough. I have nowhere to put a female staff, right? So Ronnie, who's the skipper in Hillsborough, I literally have a construction trailer for her. And really for the team, because we don't have locker room. We only have one locker room at PK, so they're all in trailers, literally trailer park locker room. But yeah, it's tough, not just coaches, but umpires, right? We had Emma, who's on our league umpire, and we're gonna get more and more, and so we got to find space for them. And so it's definitely a new world in developmental baseball. And so again, like I said, I think it's good long term, but getting there is been troublesome for sure.
Well, and I feel that you guys and the Hops occupy a uniquely important place in the state as well, right? Where there are fewer minor league teams than there have been in the past. We've seen we've seen that shrink just because of what we're talking about.
You just did within our state, right? With Salem and like Boise, doesn't it? So
well, and I mean going farther back even, but like AAA is no longer in Portland. I mean, there was a real
right.
There's a super long tradition of the Portland Beavers. I mean, not to say that they were the most popular team in town by the time they left, but I mean, certainly, you had a 100-year tradition, founding member of the Pacific Coast League. That's gone. And until the day that Major League Baseball, decides to come to Portland, whether that happens in our lifetimes, our children's lifetimes, or absolutely never, if you want to go see high level baseball, or if you want to see professional baseball in the state of Oregon, it's you guys or the Hops as of now. and
Right. No, for
and
sure.
and and so and especially, I mean, people from are people from Eugene going to be driving to Hillsborough to see minor league baseball in the future if something were to happen to the Emeralds? I don't know. I don't know that there's an option for people who live south of Salem.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think more importantly, when we think about like the situation we're in, it's what minor league baseball does for the communities year round. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we don't
Yeah.
have the access to having a facility, which we're excited to have, and do more nonprofit events, do Christmas events, welcome high school teams to come play because we don't have a lot of turf access in our city. So a lot of over 200 games have been canceled here locally, for the high school
Hmm.
level. So being able to really be a part of the community, yeah, yes, the facility will be anchored by the Emeralds, but it's all the other things that we can do that are really important. But you're right from a professional aspect, and as our communities grow, like we're not going to get any smaller, right? So what does our community
Hmm.
look like in 20 years? With entertainment options, venue options, facility options. What happens if there's a disaster and we need a headquarters where we can do stuff and we can use the facility for where there's another horrific fire or like an earthquake and whatnot. We want to be a resource that we can help our communities with. So but yeah, it's I do think it's a tough thing to do because we have a lot of things facing our communities, right? We have an affordable housing issue, we have homeless
Hmm.
issues, all kinds of things, but we got to be able to think and do all these things to kind of hopefully save this team. So
And it is similar to the conversation we have in Portland about baseball and sports franchises and whether the WNBA should come to Portland. There is a conversation about where do you put the resources, and a little bit of a chicken and the egg. Like does investing in sports and bringing more sports teams to Portland help revitalize Portland and bring people downtown and thereby help bring Portland back to what we think of it being pre-pandemic, pre like 2018. Or do you need to address those issues um, in order to be an inviting place for sports teams and events to want to come? So I think that's a little bit of the chicken and the egg thing up here in Portland, but in Eugene, like you said, I mean,
same thing.
Eugene it's a growing urban center for a large part of the state. I mean, it is, and obviously a massive university. It's something that is vital to the community. Can you give us, Alan, more of a I know you kind of hit on it, but is there a more of a status update on where things are with the stadium proposal, and like how does that get built in terms of what needs to happen privately, public funding, like what is the path to getting that in place and I guess erected by 2025, which is like essentially tomorrow.
It is essentially tomorrow. I mean, that's probably, I would say our biggest obstacle at the moment is time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Can we get this done in time? And the longer we wait and the longer we, to finalize the project, it gets harder and harder. We got to be able to have a funding pathway and a site to tell Major League Baseball, here's the plan, here's the pathway, here's the site,
Mm-hmm.
let's go. And, is it ready in May of 25, June of 25? Like we're trying really hard to get there. But the funding pathway is the part that I'm working on the most at the moment. You know, from when we started this 2+ years ago, interest rates have tripled. Inflation's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. It's like the worst time to build something like this, right? I wish it wasn't, but it just is, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's getting very expensive to figure this out. But we've been working with the county. The county has designated a site at the fairgrounds in the northwest corner. They've increased hotel tax, so essentially a tourist tax to help pay for a majority of the build. So no property
Mm-hmm.
tax locally from our locals to pay for it. Private money from the Emeralds. We're putting in over $13 million from our side. The federal government's helped us out. They put in some money to make it like resilient for immediate occupancy in case there is like a natural disaster. And the state is already put in about 7.5 million. We're looking for another 7.5. We had for the original request of 15. We're almost there. We're
Mm-hmm.
almost there. I'm looking at naming rights and that sort of thing. But when you think about the taxes and like people are like, oh, we can't. I don't want my property
Right.
taxes. I don't want to pay. We got other things. I agree. Like, but we're not looking at that. We're not looking at property tax. The big part of it is going to be tourist tax, and that's something that our locals aren't paying for. It's how those tourist dollars are designated to be built to be used to fund projects like this that will draw more tourism, more concerts, more high school events, more baseball. Those dollars are meant to go towards infrastructure like this. And so a lot, in Hillsborough, some of that money's going towards that project up there. Most of these types of facilities are built with those types of dollars. So this is a public-private partnership that we're working with Lane County and the state and the feds. And there's strong interest from everybody to try to make this happen. But I guess, like I said, our biggest problem is time. And it's also just the inflationary times that we live in right now. It's just so expensive to build, man.
Yeah. Allan, I don't want to let you go without asking you a little bit about Major League Baseball, just because, it is an ongoing conversation, right? People want to know if Portland is a viable Major League Baseball market. There've been ongoing efforts, currently the Craig Cheek, Mike Barrett group. I wrote them a couple weeks ago when Salt Lake City rolled out their bid. As somebody who's very much in the baseball world and looking at the landscape, the A's now seem very committed to going to Las Vegas. In the world of relocation and expansion, do you see a path to Major League Baseball in the state of Oregon in whatever the timeline is? I mean, do you see a path to that happening?
Yeah, I'm not privy to those conversations, but obviously in the business, talk to folks. Portland is a destination for sure. I mean, I think there is, again, fast growing market, great sports town. The as far as like the big four, we only have the NBA. Would love to see, and I think it was you I was talking about, but it'd be nice to see another MLB team in our market in the Northwest, right? To create a little more rivalry. For us here in Oregon to have something in Portland, I think Hillsborough, we would be fighting to get that affiliation, to have the Portland team. That would be amazing. But yeah, I think it is. I mean, when you look at the other, I think, you hear teams, you hear markets, you hear Salt Lake just announced, Nashville, Montreal, right? And Portland. Those are probably the most common ones. And, as everybody's read, there's probably 2 more teams on the horizon, right? And so having one on the West Coast would be fantastic. And, and that ripple effect from that too is, right, they're going to need 4 minor league facilities and likely on the West Coast. So, yeah, it makes it all the more important for us to figure out our situation here in Eugene, because Major League Baseball is going to need facilities for the emerging teams that are coming. So, is it a viable thing? Is it real? I think so. I think the PDX folks have done a tremendous job making noise. They've had ongoing conversations with the commissioner, and we'll see. I hope it happens. I really, really, really hope it happens because it's a tremendous sports town, and it would crush. It would really crush.
I think the most important question that we have left, Allan, before I let you go and begin your weekend of exploding whales is:
are we going to repeat? Yes.
That's true. I mean, obviously, we have to acknowledge, right, the defending Northwest League champions,
back to back
already. So going for the three-peat.
Going for the three-peat.
Does that make you like the Jerry West or the Mitch Kupchak?
Let's go. They're going to change the logo, the minor league logo, to me.
How much would it take for the Sports by Northwest podcast to get the naming rights to the new stadium?
About $12 million. $12.3 million.
Hey guys, do we have $12.3 million around? Okay, we'll talk. Okay, we will talk about it on my end over here in my office.
I love it. Hey, you guys would be heroes. Heroes.
I don't know that I'm allowed to create the sports news. I think I'm supposed to only cover it. I don't know if I can create it or be financially invested in the outcome. But if we could keep professional baseball in Eugene and also and get some buzz for the podcast at the same time, I think that'd be great. Give me one thing that somebody going to an Emeralds / Exploding Whales game this weekend is going to experience. You mentioned Paul Lindman is going to be throwing out the first pitch on Saturday night against Spokane.
First pitch, he'll have his book. He'll be talking about his book. We got families that were involved with it. We got some folks that were involved with the whole process in 70 out there. We got the city coming out. We've got obviously our players and whatnot, and just some fun stuff on the video board. So it'll be good, man. The jerseys are great. We got a lot of new merch in that we haven't put online yet because we need to have stuff for fans when they come here. That's probably been the biggest gripe, is that we just don't have anything. We had thought we had bought enough merchandise to get us through Christmas, and we sold out in 90 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's incredible. Yeah. So yeah, you'll see a lot of that stuff. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Sounds like the merch might pay for the new stadium.
That's what I'm thinking, man. Shoot, we might have to move to Florence and just be the Florence Exploding Whales if this doesn't happen. I don't know. Where were you from on the coast?
I grew up in South Tillamook County, so Pacific City is probably my closest beach point.
How funny was it? Was it you that wrote about the exploding whale?
Yeah.
And then we announced it the next day.
You guys announced it. I'm trying not to take the credit here, Alan, but obviously I put it into the universe on a Wednesday, and you guys announced on a Thursday. So pretty much.
I think you had a lot to do with it. You had a lot to do with it. We were going to announce this in 20, and then COVID hit, and we were all right, let's shelve this for a little bit, and then 21, 22, and we're like, all right, and 20, they're like, all right, let's do it. And then I literally walked in the office because we announced at like 10 a.m. and I was with a meeting with the city about the stadium with our owner. And I walked in and I was like, guys, how's it going on social media? Because I was like, we're either going to get hammered or it's going to be great. And they looked at me and they were like, the phones won't stop ringing. It's crazy. It's awesome. And I was like, okay, is that good?
I think it's good. Well, I wish you guys a lot of luck this weekend. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. At some point,
when are you coming out?
At some point this summer, I'm going to come down, maybe for an Exploding Whales game, but also maybe just for the M's. But okay, it'll be for an Exploding Whales game. I can't get any merch; it's always sold out. So we'll have to.
People now,
but I do. All right, Allan Benavides, proud alum, proud of the UC Santa Cruz Banana Slugs, has parlayed that into a career of wacky team names and minor league baseball hijinks. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story.
Hey, Bill. Thanks, man.
Okay. Thank you, Allan.